I got a direct message on Instagram from this professor over at Berkeley asking me what gives me the qualifications to really talk about the situation in our urban schools today. I guess he really didn't kind of do a background check on me or really look at who I was or did any research on me. He just saw the big bodybuilder who felt like he thought was talking out of anger or frustration or hate towards a certain group of people. That's not the case. What you heard was passion. And with that passion, I don't care about the accolades or the qualifications or the things that I've done in my past to get me to where I am today. I took a step back from education for a while simply because I proved to myself that urban kids in a correct setting, in a correct environment, can learn and go to college and be successful. And so I will go back so that he understands my qualifications so that we can move on from this rhetoric or this pointless conversation, because we got to get to the crux of the matter. The crux of the matter is fixing the predicament in urban communities. I grew up in an urban community, South Central Los Angeles, born and raised. Throughout the course from when I was born till I was 18 until I went to college at Washington State. And growing up, I grew up in dire conditions. I remember begging for money for food. I remember pumping gas for food. I remember sleeping in parks, sleeping in abandoned buildings, because that was the situation that I grew up in. That right there catapulted me into a spiral of hatred, a spiral of hopelessness, and I did not want to do anything but survive. School was not my option. School was not a concern for me. I didn't care about it. It didn't feed me. My primary concern was getting food in my belly, eating, and doing what I had to do to survive. That built anger, frustration, and hate. I got kicked out of 2 schools in the 9th grade because I was an angry kid. I did not know how to deal with the situations that I was coming from. So in doing that, that's kind of like an understanding, a brief understanding of where I came from and what I dealt with. You'll get the rest of that when I do the documentary in LA next week. So now the qualifications. So I catapulted myself, boom, I changed my life, blah, 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 all that kind of crap. Played football, got a scholarship to Washington State. From Washington State, I got my bachelor's in 4 years, my master's in the year after, and I got my doctorate when I was 24. From that, okay, if you want to call that great, it is great, it is what it is. But it's irrelevant to the point that you got thousands, hundreds of thousands of kids dying today. So you wanted me to address this, I'll address it and get it over with so that we can move on. So I did that, became a teacher, taught English, taught reading to special ed kids, went on from there, became a dean, from a dean to a vice principal, from a vice principal to a principal at 27. Started Ralph Ellison High School, probably I think I was 29 years old when Ralph Ellison started in 2006. And from there grew those kids. Those kids went on and graduated and went to college and now becoming successful at what they do. So there, and from one, I guess you can see I wrote a book, Reflections of a Self-Fulfilling Prophecy. Then I wrote a curriculum to that book, which is called Enhancing Your Reflections, to deal with the social emotional needs of our kids in urban communities. So there's another kind of thing that'll help kids kind of understand and deal with this madness that they're going through. Not only that, but it teaches them the skill of reading, writing, and all this national standards that we have adopted thus far. So that's that curriculum. So we got past that. Now let's get to the crux of the matter. We have hundreds of thousands of kids dying and walking around like zombies with no hope of getting out of the madness that they're in. That's what we need to talk about. Not what kind of accomplishments I have or what kind of cred I have to actually do, to actually have this passion of change. This passion of change comes from the suffering, and I hear them. And I don't speak to you, I don't speak to those intellectuals, I speak to those kids, to those people in that struggle still today, because I was once there. My heart is still there, my passion is still there. So if they can understand me and understand the message with clarity, that's the point I'm trying to get across. And the point I'm trying to get across is take your life back. Stop being manipulated and trained by a society that's constructed to your demise. From the drugs, from the violence, from the murder, from the death, on every one of those corners is designing you to accept that lifestyle, because you don't get out of that proverbial box that you're stuck in. You're in the middle of that. And so these kids are suffering. They're growing up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, and they're losing their life by the time they're 9 because they're so embedded and so trained in this process that they don't see a life outside of that. Because their cousins and uncles and friends, they're all stuck in that proverbial box, but it's all in your mind. That's the thing. As educators, we feel like it's all in that classroom. It's all in that classroom where we need to teach them and educate them, when in reality, they can't take that back in everyday life and utilize it. We have to expose them to something different. And that's why I come up with the Exposure Project. There's so many things that are about to take place with my nonprofit, which is called Doc's Beautiful Vision, that is going to change how people perceive themselves. And once you change the perception of self and the perception of how you perceive the world, you are not going to allow those obstacles to deter you from getting to your goals. So to this professor, I hope you understand my plight. I hope you understand my mission. I hope you understand that direction, because right there, this right here, what you feel from my gut, from my heart, that's the passion. Because right now, I guarantee you there's a kid getting murdered who haven't even lived past 10. There's a young lady getting raped who haven't even reached age 13 yet. Those are the people that I speak for. Those are the people that need a voice so that they can get out of the madness that they live in. This is Dr. Wilson signing off. This mission has began.